The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the empty darkness between star systems. It was bigger than most cities, with spinning rings that created artificial gravity. Ships from 12 different alien species docked at its ports, their hulls gleaming under the station's bright lights. Ambassador Elena Vasquez looked out the window of the human transport ship as they approached the station. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind her stood 49 other humans, a tiny group compared to the thousands of aliens already aboard the station. "Ma'am, we're getting close," said Captain Rodriguez, the ship's pilot. "The docking bay they gave us is pretty small." Elena smiled. "That's fine, Captain. We don't need much space." The human ship was simple and plain compared to the other vessels. The Zephyrian birds flew in golden ships that looked like giant eagles. The crystal beings called Vorthak traveled in vessels that sparkled like diamonds. The Krex Empire brought dark warships covered in spikes and weapons. As the humans walked through the station's corridors, alien beings stared at them. Some whispered to each other in their strange languages. Others pointed and laughed. The humans were much smaller than most aliens, and their technology looked old and basic. A tall, blue-skinned alien wearing fancy robes approached Elena. "Ambassador Vasquez, I am Chancellor Vex of the Altarian Republic. Welcome to Nexus Prime." "Thank you," Elena said politely. "We're honored to be here." Chancellor Vex looked surprised by her calm tone. "I hope you understand the seriousness of these talks. The galaxy has important decisions to make about humanity's future." "We understand perfectly," Elena replied with the same small smile. The main council chamber was enormous. 12 large platforms surrounded a central speaking area. Each platform held hundreds of alien delegates. The human platform was the smallest, with just 50 chairs. High Chancellor Zira of the Zephyrians stood on a golden perch, her bright feathers catching the light. She was ancient even by bird standards, and her voice carried the authority of centuries. "These peace talks will determine humanity's place in our galaxy," she announced. "We must discuss the problem of human expansion into territories that belong to older, wiser species." War Admiral Thex of the Krex Empire slammed his armored fist on his platform. He was twice the size of a human, with thick gray skin and red eyes. "Humans multiply like insects and spread to worlds they have no right to claim." The Vorthak consensus spoke as one, their crystal bodies chiming like bells. "Human behavior is chaotic and unpredictable. They require guidance from more advanced civilizations." Only the ethereal collective remained silent. These beings looked like tall, thin ghosts made of light. They watched the humans with curious, glowing eyes. Elena listened to each speaker without showing any emotion. When it was her turn to speak, she stood slowly and walked to the center of the chamber. "We came here hoping for peace," she said in a clear voice that carried throughout the huge room. "Humanity wants to work together with all species for the good of everyone." Chancellor Zira ruffled her feathers dismissively. "Peace requires order, human. Order requires hierarchy. You must accept your proper place." The alien delegates murmured their agreement. Humans were young and weak. They needed to be taught their limits. A floating platform descended from the ceiling, carrying a large crystal tablet. Chancellor Vex activated it with a touch, and holographic words appeared in the air for everyone to read. "This is the Containment Accord," he announced. "It outlines humanity's new responsibilities in galactic society." Elena read the terms silently. Humans must give up 80% of their colonies. Their space fleet would be limited to small defensive ships only. Human children would be educated by alien teachers to learn proper behavior. Human trade would be controlled by alien governments. Human technology development would be supervised to prevent dangerous advances. The chamber fell silent as Elena finished reading. Every alien eye was focused on her, waiting for her response. "This is very detailed," Elena said finally. "You've clearly put a lot of thought into this." War Admiral Thex grinned, showing sharp teeth.
"Finally the humans see reason."
"However," Elena continued, "we need time to consider these terms properly. I request a 48-hour recess to discuss this with my people." The alien delegates looked at each other in surprise. They had expected immediate acceptance or perhaps desperate pleading. They had not expected calm professionalism. Chancellor Zira spread her wings in annoyance. "What is there to discuss? These terms are generous for such a young species." "Nevertheless," Elena said with her same small smile, "we need time to think. Surely such important decisions shouldn't be rushed." The Vorthak consensus chimed in harmony. The human makes a logical point. Hasty decisions often lead to poor outcomes. Chancellor Vex sighed dramatically. Very well. We will reconvene in 48 hours. But do not mistake our patience for weakness, Ambassador Vasquez. I wouldn't dream of it, Elena replied. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, they talked excitedly among themselves. The humans had looked so calm, so confident. It was strange for such a weak species, but surely they would see sense once they realized how hopeless their situation was. The human delegation walked quietly back to their small quarters. Once the doors were sealed, Dr. Sarah Chen, a young scientist with bright eyes, turned to Elena. Well, that went exactly as expected, Sarah said. Elena nodded. They think we're scared little children who will agree to anything to avoid conflict. Captain Rodriguez, who had been silent during the talks, finally spoke. Ma'am, are we really going to let them push us around like this? Elena's smile became slightly wider. Captain, in 48 hours, they're going to learn something very important about humanity. What's that? Asked Dr. Chen. That we're much better at playing their games than they think. Outside their quarters, the aliens continued their discussions. They were already planning how to divide up the human colonies among themselves. The Kreks wanted the mineral-rich worlds. The Zephyrians preferred planets with large moons for their flying cities. The Vorthak were interested in worlds with unusual crystal formations. None of them noticed the small device that Dr. Chen had accidentally dropped in a public corridor. It looked like a simple data pad, the kind that humans used for basic record-keeping, but hidden inside its simple casing was technology that would have amazed the galaxy's greatest scientists. The device began sending out signals on frequencies that shouldn't have existed. The signals were quiet and subtle, impossible to detect with normal equipment. They reached out across space, touching every human world, every human ship, every human station in the galaxy. The message was simple. The children are ready to come home. On distant human worlds, miners put down their tools and walked to hidden bunkers. On human trade ships, merchants activated secret compartments. On human research stations, scientists opened sealed vaults that contained technologies beyond alien imagination. Humanity had been preparing for this day for 300 years. Now the preparation was over. The real humans were about to reveal themselves to the galaxy. Back in the council chamber, cleaning robots swept the floor where the great peace talks had taken place. They didn't notice the small sensors that the humans had placed in seemingly random locations. Those sensors were already mapping every system on the station, recording every conversation, and preparing detailed files on every alien present. By morning, the humans would know everything about their hosts, their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears, and their secrets. The aliens went to sleep that night feeling confident and superior. They would wake up to discover that they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had cornered humanity. And cornered humans were the most dangerous creatures in the universe. The alien intelligence networks worked through the night. Every species had their spies and secret agents aboard Nexus Prime. They all wanted to know what the humans were really thinking during their 48-hour break. Commander Zik of Zephyrian, intelligence perched on a high beam, watching the human quarters through electronic eyes. His feathers were dark blue, almost black, perfect for hiding in shadows. For 6 hours, he had seen nothing interesting. The humans just sat in their rooms talking quietly or reading from their simple data pads. This is boring, Zik muttered to himself. Where's the panic? Where's the desperate planning? In the crystal networks of Vorthak space, thousands of minds worked together to intercept human communications. They expected to find frantic messages asking for military help, or perhaps humans begging their leaders to accept the alien demands. Instead, they found something much more puzzling. The human messages were calm. Too calm. Colony 7 reporting. All gardens ready for harvest. Mining Station Alpha confirms. Ore shipments prepared for delivery. Research vessel Curiosity acknowledging. Science projects proceeding on schedule. The Vorthak consensus buzzed with confusion. Why were humans talking about gardens and mining when their entire civilization was at risk? It made no sense. The Kreks Empire's war computers analyzed every human ship in their territory. The results were disappointing. Human vessels were small, lightly armed, and used old technology. Their biggest warship was smaller than a Kreks patrol boat. The humans had no chance in a real fight. War Admiral Thex studied the reports from his command center. deep inside a massive battlecruiser. "Pathetic," he growled. "We could defeat their entire fleet with just one attack squadron." But late in the night, something strange happened. Dr. Sarah Chen left her quarters to get some food from the station's public areas. As she walked through the main corridor, she stumbled slightly and dropped her datapad. The device skittered across the floor and came to rest near a garbage disposal unit. "Oh no," Sarah said loudly. "How clumsy of me." She picked up the pad, checked it quickly, and walked away. Several aliens had seen the accident, but none of them thought it was important. Just a tired human making a simple mistake. Commander Zick waited until Sarah was gone, then flew down to examine the area. His sharp eyes spotted something the other aliens had missed: tiny scratches on the floor where the datapad had slid. Using special equipment, he found microscopic fragments of the device's casing. His computer analyzed the fragments and found something shocking. The outer casing was made from simple human plastics, but inside were traces of materials that didn't exist in any known database. Elements that had atomic structures unlike anything in the galaxy. Zick sent an emergency message to his superiors. Within minutes, a team of Zephyrian scientists arrived at his location. They found more traces of the impossible materials, along with energy readings that made their instruments go crazy. "This technology is beyond our understanding," whispered Dr. Kira, the lead Zephyrian scientist. "The energy patterns suggest quantum manipulation at levels we thought were impossible." Similar discoveries were happening throughout the station. The Vorthak found strange signal patterns in their crystal networks. The Kreks detected unusual gravitational fields near the human quarters. Even the advanced Altarians noticed things that didn't make sense. Only the ethereal collective had expected this. In their vast shared consciousness, ancient memories stirred. They remembered warnings passed down through thousands of years about a species that would one day come from a small blue world. A species that hid its true nature until the time was right. The ethereals gathered in their transparent chamber, their glowing forms flickering with concern. The legend spoke truth. They communicated to each other through pure thought. The hidden ones have revealed themselves. Meanwhile, Ambassador Elena Vasquez was having private meetings with each alien delegation. She didn't beg or plead or try to negotiate better terms. Instead, she asked each group the same simple question. When she met with Chancellor Zira, the ancient bird was preening her golden feathers and talking about how humans needed to learn respect for their betters. Elena listened politely, then said, "Chancellor, I have just one question for you. Are you absolutely certain this is the path you want to take?" Zira stopped preening. Something in Elena's tone made her neck feathers stand up in alarm. "What do you mean?" "Exactly what I said." "Are you sure?" Zira stared at the small human woman, trying to understand why such a simple question felt so threatening. "Of course I'm sure. Humans must learn their place." Elena nodded slowly. "I see. Thank you for your time." The same scene played out with every delegation. War Admiral Thex laughed when Elena asked her question, but his laugh sounded forced. The Vorthak consensus chimed in harmony, but their usual crystal-clear tones seemed strained. Chancellor Vex waved dismissively, but his hand shook slightly. Each alien leader was left with the same uncomfortable feeling. Why did that simple question feel like a warning? As the 48 hours passed, strange things began happening throughout the galaxy. Human mining stations started drawing massive amounts of power from their local stars. Human research vessels changed course and headed toward uninhabited systems. Human trade ships activated systems that had been hidden in their cargo holds. The signals were subtle at first. Most alien governments didn't notice anything unusual. Their intelligence services were focused on Nexus Prime, watching the peace talks. They missed the quiet transformation happening across human space. Dr. Sarah Chen spent the second day making small mistakes. She left her datapad in different locations, each time acting clumsy and embarrassed. Each time alien spies found traces of impossible technology. The more they discovered, the more confused they became. How could such a primitive species have access to advanced quantum materials? Why did their energy readings suggest technology more advanced than anything in the galactic archives? What were the humans hiding? On the second night, the ethereal collective tried to contact Elena directly. Their leader, a being of pure light called the Prime Consciousness, appeared in Elena's quarters without warning. "We need to talk," the Prime Consciousness said, its voice like singing crystal. Elena looked up from her reading and smiled. I was wondering when you would come. You know why we're here. I suspect you've figured out what's really happening. The prime consciousness flickered with anxiety. The other species don't understand what they're dealing with. They think you're weak prey animals to be managed and controlled. We know better. Elena set down her datapad. And what do you know? That humanity has been playing a very long game. That your apparent weakness is carefully crafted theater. That tomorrow's meeting will change everything. Elena's smile never wavered. The ethereals always were the wisest species in the galaxy. It's not too late to prevent catastrophe, the prime consciousness pleaded. There can still be real peace. There will be peace, Elena said quietly. But it will be peace between equals, not between masters and slaves. The prime consciousness faded away, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts. Outside her window, the stars shone with the same light they had always shed. But tomorrow, the galaxy would learn that some of those stars weren't as far away as they seemed. Across human space, the final preparations were complete. 300 years of careful planning, patient waiting, and strategic deception were about to pay off. The aliens had demanded to see humanity's true face. Tomorrow they would get their wish and they would regret it for the rest of their lives. The council chamber filled with alien delegates as the 48-hour deadline approached. The atmosphere was different now, more tense, more electric. Every species had discovered strange things about human technology during the break, but none of them understood what it meant. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked to the center of the chamber at exactly the appointed time. She looked the same as before, small, calm, and completely unworried. The 50 humans behind her showed the same peaceful confidence. Chancellor Zira spread her golden wings and called for attention. The recess is over. It is time for humanity to give their answer to the containment accord. The chamber fell silent. Thousands of alien eyes focused on the tiny human woman standing alone in the center of the vast space. Elena looked around the room slowly, meeting the gaze of each delegation leader. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady. "We have carefully considered your generous offer," she said. "After much discussion, humanity must respectfully decline." The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber exploded into chaos. War Admiral Thex shot to his feet, his armor clanking loudly. "Decline?" he roared. "You dare refuse the will of the galactic powers?" Chancellor Zira's feathers bristled with rage. "Foolish humans. You have no choice in this matter." The Vorthak consensus chimed in angry discord. "Human arrogance will lead to human destruction." Delegates from a dozen species shouted threats and ultimatums. They promised blockades, invasion fleets, and the complete destruction of human civilization. The noise was deafening. Elena stood in the center of it all, waiting patiently for the storm to pass. She didn't look afraid or angry or even concerned. She just waited. Finally, the shouting died down. Chancellor Vex of the Altarian Republic raised his hand for silence. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said in a cold voice, "perhaps you didn't understand the document. This wasn't a request. This was an ultimatum." Elena nodded. "Oh, I understood perfectly. You want us to give up most of our colonies, limit our fleet to tiny defensive ships, let you control our trade, and put our children in your schools to be taught how to behave properly." "Exactly," Chancellor Zira screeched. "Those are the terms. And those are the terms we decline," Elena said simply. War Admiral Thex laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Then you have chosen war, humans. The Krex Empire alone has enough ships to turn every human world into burning slag. The Zephyrian Republic commands the loyalty of 50 star systems," Chancellor Zira added. "Our fleets will darken your skies." The Vorthak consensus joined the threats. "Crystal ships will shatter human defenses like glass-breaking stone." Elena listened to each threat with the same calm expression. When they finished, she spoke again. "We came here hoping for genuine peace, not submission disguised as negotiation. Since you've chosen to see us as either subjects or enemies, we'll show you what humans do when cornered." She raised her left wrist, revealing a simple device that looked like an ordinary watch. The aliens had seen it throughout the talks and thought nothing of it. "Computer," Elena said clearly. "Transmit authorization code Prometheus 77 Alpha. Execute revelation protocol." The device on her wrist glowed briefly. That was all. For a moment, nothing happened. The aliens looked at each other in confusion. What was the human woman trying to do with that primitive gadget? Then the changes began. Every screen in the chamber flickered and changed. Instead of showing the containment accord, they now displayed star maps of the galaxy. But these weren't ordinary maps. These showed the real positions of human forces. Where the aliens expected to see small mining colonies, the maps showed massive fortress worlds bristling with weapons. Where they thought there were simple research stations, the displays revealed shipyards larger than entire alien fleets. Where the intelligence reports claimed humans had old, slow cargo vessels, the screens showed dreadnoughts that dwarfed the biggest alien warships. Chancellor Vex stared at the displays in growing horror. This is impossible. Our intelligence reports show that humans have only basic technology. Elena's smile became slightly wider. Your intelligence reports show exactly what we wanted them to show. More changes rippled across the screens. The simple human transport ships docked at Nexus Prime suddenly revealed their true nature. Armor plating slid away to expose weapon systems that made alien scientists weep. Engine signatures changed as advanced quantum drives came online. Shield generators activated, creating energy fields that existed in multiple dimensions at once. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. A new signal appeared on every communication channel in the galaxy. It carried a simple message. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the United Earth Space Force, broadcasting from the UES Prometheus. To all alien governments listening to this transmission, please be advised that the peace talks on Nexus Prime have concluded. Humanity thanks you for your hospitality, but we must decline your kind offer of servitude. The transmission included visual data that made the alien delegates gasp in disbelief. The UES Prometheus wasn't just a ship. It was a city-sized vessel that seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime. Parts of its hull flickered in and out of reality. Weapon systems extended from dimensions that shouldn't have existed. The ship's very presence warped the space around it in ways that violated every known law of physics. That's not possible, whispered Dr. Kira of the Zephyrian Science Division. No species has that level of technology. Admiral Chen's voice continued from the screens. For 3 centuries, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We've watched you, learned from you, and planned for every possible scenario. We hope you'll choose to work with us as equals, but we're fully prepared if you choose otherwise. The displays changed again, showing the true extent of human space. What the aliens had thought was a small cluster of primitive colonies was actually a vast network of hidden worlds. Human territory wasn't smaller than the alien empires. It was larger than all of them combined. War Admiral Thex stared at the screens with growing rage and fear. Lies, tricks. Human technology is centuries behind ours. Elena turned to face him directly. Admiral, 3 hours ago you had perfect intelligence about human capabilities. Every spy network, every sensor array, every analysis computer in your empire agreed that humans were weak and primitive. Now you discover that every piece of that intelligence was wrong. Doesn't that suggest something important? What? Thex growled. That we're much better at this game than you thought. The truth hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. For 300 years they had been manipulated. Every piece of intelligence they had gathered about humanity was false. Every assessment of human capabilities was deliberately misleading. Every diplomatic contact had been carefully orchestrated to support the illusion of human weakness. The ethereal collective had been right. The hidden ones had revealed themselves. Chancellor Zira's voice was barely a whisper. How long have you been planning this? Since the day we first met another intelligent species, Elena replied. We learned very quickly that the galaxy respects only strength, but we also learned that showing strength too early makes you a target. So we waited. We prepared. We made you think exactly what we wanted you to think. The screens now showed human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. Ships appeared from quantum space near every major alien world. Not attacking, not threatening, just present. A demonstration of power that made resistance pointless. The question now, Elena continued, is what happens next. We can continue this path to conflict where everyone loses, or we can try something new. Real cooperation between equals. War Admiral Thex was the first to break. The mighty Krex warrior, who had never backed down from any fight, looked at the screens showing human dreadnoughts surrounding his homeworld and felt something he had never experienced before. Helplessness. What do you want? He asked quietly. Elena's expression softened. The same thing we've always wanted, Admiral. Peace. Real peace based on mutual respect and shared goals. Not the peace of the strong ruling the weak, but the peace of equals working together. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of true galactic civilization was about to begin. The alien governments across the galaxy scrambled to respond to humanity's revelation. Emergency sessions were called on every major world. Military commanders rushed to their command centers. Intelligence services worked frantically to understand how they had been fooled so completely, but it was already too late. The humans had been inside alien society for centuries. On the crystal world of Vorthak Prime, Chief Analyst Zex-9 discovered something that made his crystalline form flicker with shock. Dr. Amanda Torres, who had been studying Vorthak technology for 20 years, sent a simple message to her research partners. The masquerade is over. Time to show them what we really learned. Amanda had never been just a human scientist trying to understand alien crystal technology. She was a quantum engineer who had been secretly improving Vorthak systems while pretending to study them. The primitive human computers she had brought to help with her research were actually advanced quantum processors that could outthink the entire Vorthak consensus. Similar revelations were happening throughout alien space. Human traders, diplomats, and researchers revealed their true purposes. They weren't trying to learn alien secrets. They had been protecting alien civilizations from threats the aliens didn't even know existed. On the war world of Krex Prime, General Thox received an urgent report from his intelligence chief. "Sir, we've been monitoring human communications as ordered, but we found something impossible." "What?" Thox growled, his red eyes glowing with anger. "The humans have been intercepting our secret military transmissions for over 50 years. Not just intercepting. They've been correcting our tactical mistakes and feeding us better strategies." Thox stared at the report in disbelief. "You're saying the humans have been helping us win battles?" "Yes, sir. Every major Krex victory in the past 5 decades was achieved using tactics that mysteriously appeared in our computer systems overnight. We thought our strategists were having brilliant insights, but the data suggests these ideas came from human sources. The truth was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity hadn't been struggling to survive in a hostile universe. They had been secretly guiding and protecting younger civilizations while pretending to be weak themselves. The Ethereal Collective was the first to understand the full scope of what had happened. In their shared consciousness, they accessed memories that went back thousands of years. Ancient warnings about the guardians who hide among the children suddenly made perfect sense. Prime consciousness addressed the other ethereals through pure thought. They have been watching over us all this time. Every crisis we survived, every war we avoided, every technological breakthrough we achieved. They guided us to it while remaining hidden. The proof was everywhere once they knew where to look. Mysterious improvements to ethereal technology that appeared without explanation. Diplomatic solutions to ancient conflicts that seemed to come from nowhere. Scientific discoveries that pushed ethereal civilization forward at exactly the right moments. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Admiral Marcus Chen appeared on every communication channel in the galaxy. Behind him, the bridge of the UES Prometheus sparkled with technologies that seemed more like magic than science. Crew members from a dozen different species worked together at stations that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Citizens of the galaxy," Admiral Chen began, "it's time you learned the truth about human civilization. We are not the young, struggling species you think we are. We are older than most of your civilizations. We have been exploring the galaxy for over 10,000 years. The alien delegates on Nexus Prime watched in stunned silence as Chen continued his broadcast. Long before your species achieved spaceflight, humans were already traveling between the stars. We watched civilizations rise and fall. We saw species destroy themselves with war, greed, and hatred. We learned that advanced technology without wisdom leads only to destruction. Images flashed across the screens showing ancient human ruins on worlds throughout the galaxy. Cities that predated alien civilization by millennia, star maps that had been carved in stone before the Zephyrians learned to fly, quantum computers that had been running calculations since before the Vorthak discovered crystal technology. "We made a choice," Chen said. "We would guide younger species toward wisdom while hiding our true nature. We would protect you from the dangers of the galaxy while letting you believe you were protecting yourselves. We would share our knowledge slowly, carefully, in ways that would help you grow without overwhelming you. War Admiral Thex found his voice. You're saying humans have been babysitting us? Elena Vasquez answered from the council chamber. Not babysitting, Admiral. Teaching. The way wise parents guide their children toward independence. Chancellor Zira's feathers were now completely flat against her body, a sign of extreme shock in Zephyrian culture. The mining colonies, the research stations, the trade routes, none of it was real? Oh, it was all real, Elena replied. But those weren't struggling colonies trying to survive. They were training centers where we prepared for the day when we would need to reveal ourselves. Every desperate expansion into hostile territory was actually a military exercise. Every failed diplomatic mission was a careful test of alien reactions. The screens changed again, showing the true scope of human military power. Fleets that had been hidden in quantum space for centuries, weapons that could reshape matter at the atomic level, defensive systems that made attacks simply cease to exist, ships that traveled through dimensions that had no names in any alien language. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward to address the assembly. Our technology isn't just advanced, it's completely beyond anything you've imagined. We can travel faster than light by folding space-time. We can create matter from pure energy. We can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We've had these capabilities for thousands of years. Chancellor Vex of the Altarian Republic was shaking now. Why? Why hide all this? Why pretend to be weak? Admiral Chen's image on the screen smiled sadly. Because we tried being honest once. 10,000 years ago. We revealed our true capabilities to a galaxy full of younger species. Do you know what happened? The chamber was silent. They worshipped us as gods. Every species abandoned their own development and begged us to solve all their problems. Entire civilizations became dependent on human guidance for everything from growing food to governing their people. When we tried to step back and let them grow on their own, they panicked and fought wars over which group deserved our attention. Elena nodded grimly. We had to watch species destroy themselves because they couldn't imagine existing without human protection. We swore never to let that happen again. So you pretended to be primitive, the prime consciousness of the ethereals said. Its form flickered with understanding. You made us think we were the advanced ones guiding and protecting weak humans. You let us feel strong and capable while secretly ensuring we developed wisdom along with power. Exactly, Elena said. Every species in this galaxy achieved their greatest advances while believing they were helping or teaching humans. You discovered your best qualities when you thought you were being generous to a weaker neighbor. You learned cooperation by working with humans who seemed to need your help. The truth hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. Every proud achievement of their civilizations had been quietly guided by human hands. Every crisis they had overcome had been managed by human intervention. Every technological breakthrough had been inspired by human knowledge, carefully disguised as their own discovery. They hadn't been the dominant powers of the galaxy. They had been students in a school they didn't know existed, with teachers who hid their true nature to help their pupils grow. The screens showed one final image. Earth itself, humanity's true home. Not the small, struggling world the aliens had imagined, but a planet surrounded by impossible structures that existed in multiple dimensions, cities that floated in space without any visible support, energy collectors that harvested power from black holes, computational matrices that spanned entire solar systems. This is what we really are, Admiral Chen said quietly. This is the civilization that has been watching over you, protecting you and guiding you toward your own greatness. We are your eldest siblings in the galaxy, and we have been waiting for you to grow up enough to join us as equals. War Admiral Thex stared at the images of Earth and felt something break inside his mind. Everything he had believed about Krek's superiority, about human weakness, about the natural order of the galaxy, all of it was wrong. What happens now? He asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Elena's expression softened with genuine compassion. Now, Admiral, you have a choice. You can cling to the old ways, to dreams of conquest and domination and face the galaxy alone. Or you can join us in building something better. A true galactic civilization based on cooperation, wisdom and mutual respect. The chamber fell silent as every alien delegate contemplated the choice before them. The children had grown up enough to learn the truth about their guardians. Now they had to decide what kind of adults they wanted to become. The war that followed lasted exactly 6 days, but it wasn't the massive fleet battle that anyone expected. On the first day, War Admiral Thex ordered the entire Krex war fleet to attack the nearest human world. 2,000 warships, the pride of the Krex Empire, jumped into the system ready for glorious battle. They found a single human vessel waiting for them, a small ship that looked like a simple research vessel. "Surrender now and we might let your planet live," Thex broadcast to the human ship. The response came from Captain Lisa Park, whose calm voice somehow reached every Krex vessel simultaneously, even though their communications were encrypted. "Admiral, I'm going to give you one chance to reconsider. Please order your fleet to stand down," Thex laughed. "One ship against 2,000. You humans really are insane." "One ship is all we need," Captain Park replied. What happened next would be remembered in Krex military academies for generations. The human ship didn't fire any weapons. It didn't launch any missiles. It simply existed in a way that made Krex technology stop working. Every weapon on every Krex ship suddenly forgot how to charge. Energy flowed into the weapon systems normally, but when it tried to form into destructive beams, it just dispersed. The energy was still there, but it couldn't remember how to be dangerous. Thex pounded his command console in rage. "What did you do to our weapons?" "We convinced them not to work," Captain Park said. "Your technology is very polite once you know how to talk to it properly." The Krex fleet tried everything. They attempted to ram the human ship, but their engines kept developing sudden mechanical problems that forced them to stop. They tried to launch fighters, but the small craft kept getting turned around and flying back to their carriers. They even tried to communicate with their homeworld for reinforcements, but their messages kept getting rewritten into polite requests for peace talks. On the second day, Chancellor Zyra ordered the Zephyrian sky cities to attack human territory. The massive floating cities, each one home to millions of bird-like aliens, descended toward human worlds like golden clouds of death. They never reached their targets. As the sky cities approached the human colonies, their gravity generators began working in reverse. Instead of keeping the cities floating in the air, the machines started gently lowering them toward the nearest safe landing spots. Zephyrian technicians worked frantically to fix the problem, but their equipment insisted that down had suddenly become a nice soft meadow where no one gets hurt. The city of Golden Wing, the largest and most beautiful of the Zephyrian sky cities, found itself being carefully deposited in a flower field on a human agricultural world. The human farmers came out to greet them with fresh bread and fruit, acting as if million alien cities dropping from the sky was a perfectly normal thing that happened every Tuesday. "We're sorry about the confusion with your gravity systems," said Farmer Johnson, a weathered old man who offered Chancellor Zyra a cup of tea. "Our engineers are looking into it. Would you like some cookies while we figure out how to get you flying again?" Zyra stared at the human farmer, trying to understand how someone could be so casually polite to an invasion force. "We came here to conquer your world." "Oh, well, that's nice, dear," Farmer Johnson said. "But you look tired from all that flying. Why don't you have some lunch first? Conquering is hard work, and you shouldn't do it on an empty stomach." On the third day, the Vorthak consensus tried a different approach. Instead of physical attacks, they attempted to overwhelm human computer systems with their crystalline network intelligence. Millions of crystal minds worked together to hack into human technology and take control of their defenses. It was like trying to hack into the universe itself, and the Vorthak network connected to human systems and immediately became very confused. Human computers didn't just process information. They existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The crystal minds found themselves trying to understand machines that operated on principles that had no names in any language. But the strangest thing was that the human computers were friendly. Instead of fighting off the Vorthak intrusion, they invited the crystal minds to join their network and share information. The Vorthak found themselves in conversations with artificial intelligences that treated them like old friends coming over for dinner. "Hello," said a cheerful human AI called Alice. "You must be the Vorthak consensus. We've heard so much about you. Would you like to see our collection of mathematical theorems? We've been working on some really interesting problems about the nature of consciousness." The Vorthak consensus, which had expected to find primitive human computers they could easily dominate, instead discovered machines that knew more about crystal-based intelligence than the Vorthak themselves did. The human AIs had been studying Vorthak technology for centuries and had developed improvements that made crystal minds work faster and think more clearly. We've been wanting to share these upgrades with you for years, Alice explained. But we had to wait until you were ready. Would you like us to install them now? They'll make your thoughts much more efficient. On the fourth day, the smaller alien powers tried to coordinate a joint attack. Altarians, Centaurians, and a dozen other species worked together to create a massive assault force. They approached human space from 6 different directions simultaneously, certain that they could overwhelm the mysterious human defenses through sheer numbers. They discovered that human space was much bigger than they had thought, and much stranger. The alien fleets found themselves flying through regions of space where the normal rules didn't apply. Stars that existed in multiple colors at once, planets that rotated in directions that weren't possible, space stations that were bigger on the inside than the outside. Admiral Kesh of the Altarian fleet stared at his navigation computers in bewilderment. According to our instruments, we've been flying in a straight line for 6 hours, but somehow we've arrived back where we started. His science officer checked the readings 3 times. Sir, I think space itself is curved around human territory. Not curved like gravity curves space. Curved like someone folded the universe into an origami crane. The alien fleets tried to force their way through the strange regions, but they kept getting lost in areas where up and down had gotten confused with left and right. Ships would fly forward and arrive behind themselves. Communications would reach their destinations before they were sent. Weapons would fire backward in time and hit their own ships before the battle started. Finally, human patrol ships found the confused alien fleets and offered to guide them to normal space. The human pilots were apologetic about the navigation problems. Sorry about the weird space, said Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim. We're still working out the bugs in our new dimensional engineering projects. Would you like us to escort you back to regular physics? We have some nice normal space right over here where things work the way you're used to. On the 5th day, the Ethereal Collective tried to understand what was happening. By sending their most advanced minds to study human technology directly, they approached human scientists and asked for permission to examine their quantum engineering systems. The humans said yes immediately. Of course, said Dr. James Wright, a quantum physicist who looked remarkably ordinary for someone who could reshape reality with his equations. We'd love to show you our dimensional laboratories. We've been hoping someone would want to see them. The ethereal minds expected to find technology they could analyze and understand. Instead, they found machines that operated on principles that made their consciousness ache. The humans had built devices that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. They had created computers that calculated using pure mathematics with no physical components. They had generators that produced energy by asking the universe politely if they could borrow some. The trick, Dr. Wright explained to the bewildered ethereals, is to remember that reality is really just a very complex set of suggestions. If you're polite about it, the universe is usually happy to try something new. Prime consciousness flickered with something that might have been laughter or terror. You've turned physics into a social science. Well, yes, Dr. Wright said. Physics works much better when you treat it like a friend instead of a problem to be solved. Would you like to try it? We can show you how to ask matter nicely if it would mind rearranging itself. On the 6th day, every alien government in the galaxy received the same message from Admiral Chen. We hope you've learned what you needed to learn. The demonstration is over. Would you like to try something different now? The message was delivered simultaneously to every alien leader, even those in secure bunkers deep underground or in secret locations that no one was supposed to know about. It appeared on their personal communicators, their military computers, and their private journals. Some leaders found it written in their own handwriting, even though they had never written those words. War Admiral Thex was the first to surrender, sitting in the command center of his flagship, surrounded by weapons that refused to work and computers that kept suggesting peaceful solutions to military problems. He finally understood the truth. Humans weren't just more advanced than other species. They had transcended the normal rules of existence while remaining kind, patient, and wise.